2023 was a big year for the evil-doers. We had the Koopa King and William Afton brought to life on the big screen. Disney finally gave fans an actual villain, and new bad guys brought to life in TMNT, Spider-Verse, and more. Welcome to Wicked Binge. Today we're ranking the villains of 2023 from evil to most evil. Today we'll be looking at the most memorable villains we've covered this year, mostly from animated movies, but with a couple others as well. As usual, we'll be starting with the least villainous and working our way down to the most evil. Starting out with Leo's Miss Malkin. Miss Malkin swiftly reveals her terrible personality and teaching style. Refusing positive reinforcement, she favors heavy books and throws shurikens as demerits, displaying a clear disdain for her students and an aversion to valuable learning methods. Despite these flaws, she avoids falling further down the list for a couple reasons. It becomes evident that her aversion to positive reinforcement stems from her own childhood experiences. She aspires to become a good teacher, working towards getting her own homeroom by the film's end. While she initially leaves Leo in the Everglades, she undergoes a significant turn, nearly sacrificing her job to save the lizard. Next up, we have Velvet from Trolls Band Together. Truly, she gives pop star phonies a bad name. Between her and Veneer, it's made clear that Velvet is the leader who is constantly pushing to do whatever it takes for fame and fortune. Being someone with no singing talent, she only kidnapped Floyd because she was too lazy to bother with practicing and just wanted a fast track to superstardom. This laziness earns her the Sloth Medal, but beyond her laziness, we feel that Velvet truly deserves the Greed Medal above all else, as it's her greed that pushes her to points beyond all reason. Even when she and Veneer are on top of the world, Velvet just demands more and is shown being willing to suck every last drop of talent out of Floyd for the sake of what would likely be a half-baked encore instead of just walking away. Moving on, let's talk about Wish's King Magnifico. We could go on all day about how absolutely bizarre the writing for this guy was, but for this video's sake, we'll just give you the TLDR. He seemed like he had some good intentions at first. Despite his dishonesty to his people, he sincerely had a desire to protect them from having their wishes crushed and potentially ruining their lives. But when someone else uses magic without his blessing, he gives into a book of forbidden magic. Almost immediately, he becomes a power-hungry monster who literally crushes the dreams of anyone who opposes him, and eventually shortens that to just anyone. It's a shame we didn't get to see more of Magnifico's good side before he became corrupted by forbidden magic. But tragic or not, he rightfully earned a spot in the dungeon. We're gonna give him the Envy Medal for not wanting anyone else to use magic. Moving on to DreamWorks' Ruby Gillman Teenage Kraken to talk about Chelsea Vanderzee, also known as Evil Ariel by the internet. Chelsea is the popular new girl at Oceanside High, first making a big splash by taking the credit for Ruby's rescue of Connor. Chelsea's seen throughout the film being a total manipulator, always hiding her true intentions with a sweet smile. From pushing Ruby into being rebellious to trying to gain sympathy with a fake backstory about her dead mom, Chelsea is all about doing whatever she needs in order to get what she wants, and what she wants is to get revenge on Agatha and rule over the ocean. Once she reveals her true colors, Chelsea, or rather Queen Nerissa, is shown to be incredibly cruel, callous, and selfish. Not only is she willing to hurt Ruby after pretending to be her best friend, but she also nearly drowns the students on the prom boat, not really caring about anyone other than herself and getting a kick out of causing panic and destruction. Chelsea is evil through and through, despite her claims about simply being pretty and misunderstood. Next we go to Chicken Run Dawn of the Nugget to talk about Mrs. Tweety. We don't think anyone was expecting this lady to return, but for what it's worth, she certainly makes the most of her second appearance. Going from being an old-school prison warden to a 60s James Bond-esque supervillain, Mrs. Tweety continues to be all about being cruel and making buckets full of cash by any means necessary. Now, instead of only seeing chickens as mindless creatures for her to use for profits, she seems to get a special kick out of trying to slaughter them, especially when it comes to Ginger and her family. From delighting in celebrating chickens to the grinder to threatening both Ginger and Molly with an axe, the Mrs. Tweety in this film is really gone full supervillain, wanting nothing more than to finally get revenge on all chickens for humiliating her.
And Militia Tweety will have her revenge.
And this is before she runs back into Ginger and her crew. Unsurprisingly, Tweety is also still a pretty toxic partner, making it crystal clear that she only married Dr. Fry for his resources and his brain instead of having any actual love for him, and being more than happy to resort back to being verbally and physically abusive towards him, like she was with her first husband. women. Speaking of which, whether it was through divorce or some other means, we're sure that Tweety's separation wasn't a pretty one. Later, when she meets Reginald, we see her pretty blatantly flirting with him, and in front of Dr. Fry no less. So yeah, safe to say that we can add Gold Digger to Mrs. Tweety's long list of negative traits. But let's jump into the Spider-Verse and talk about Dr. Jonathan Owen, or the Spot. Once an ordinary scientist from Alchemax, the Spot not only turns to a life of crime after being given his superpowers, but he also decides to take his frustrations and trauma out on Miles. Once he discovers his true powers, Spot makes it his mission to not only become more powerful by any means necessary, but to also take away everything that Miles loves. Starting with Miles' dad, who Spot plans to kill. Whether he'll succeed or manage to turn over a new leaf, we'll just have to wait and see. But for right now, Spot remains as a selfish, vengeful, totally insane, and totally evil villain who needs to be stopped. Let's talk about the villain from the movie Nimona, the director. For some villains, the ends justify the means, and for the director, that means being willing to frame others for murder, as well as lying, manipulation, actually murdering people yourself, such as when she tries to kill Nimona when she's disguised as Ambrosius, and basically doing whatever it takes to destroy all monsters. This eventually leads to the director turning the cannons on her own city, not caring if she kills her own people so long as she's able to take out Nimona. For as much as she may claim she cares about the kingdom and protecting her people from monsters, the director only really cares about protecting her own beliefs regarding knights and commoners, keeping the institution intact and destroying anything and everything that could potentially get in the way of these things. She's cruel, calculating, and selfish, absolutely refusing to change her beliefs, even when repeatedly confronted with the possibility that she and the system that she's a part of could be wrong. Finally, we have to talk about the big turtle dragon with the smooth voice that everyone loves, Bowser, King of the Koopas. Naturally, Bowser is in classic form throughout the Super Mario Bros. Movie. He's threatening, intimidating, hostile, aggressive, and when it comes to his crush on Peach, you just can't help but feel for him. But don't let his love-struck nature and charming Jack Black voice fool you. This guy is a villain through and through.
Now who's gonna stop me?
His main goal throughout the film is to force Princess Peach into marrying him, either by impressing her with the Power Star, or threatening to use it to destroy her kingdom, which definitely earns him the Lust Medal. With this really being the only thing he wants, Bowser lets nothing stand in his way and makes it very clear that he is willing to kill whoever tries to stop him. And his violence and authoritarianism gets cranked up to 11. For as funny as he may be, Bowser still proves to be incredibly dangerous, and arguably the most iconic villain of the year in our opinion. Now, on the topic of video game adaptation villains, let's talk about Sonic Prime's The Chaos Council. From taking over an entire city, to forcing others to work for them, to invading and wrecking other worlds, these guys don't really have any positive qualities about them. They're on a quest to obtain as many shards as possible to obtain control over all worlds. For most of Season 2, they have Nine imprisoned and are forcing him to help them. Upon stopping in no place, they find Rusty Rose, but they choose to abandon her there. Upon facing more and more defeats at the hands of the heroes, they reach for more and more desperate measures. This includes creating more terror in New York, aiming to expand their control across the world and beyond. And building Chaos Sonic is right up there with everything else. When it comes to Mr. Dr. Eggman, we have to give him, as an individual, the Pride Medal. This version of Eggman is the unofficially self-appointed leader of the council, which is shown to bother the other members. He even gives some reasons as to why some of the others couldn't be the leader, such as saying how Dr. Dunnett is too old. He's constantly taking charge, sometimes even ordering the other members around or talking down to them. Additionally, when he's talking to Nine alone, he tries to have Nine give him some valuable information that would help them beat Sonic. In doing this, he insults the rest of the Chaos Council, saying things like how they lack the imagination that Nine has that would help them win.
They lack vision and imagination.
The Dragon King is taking the world and the Bronze Medal of Evil by storm. Look, we get it. You've been made fun of for your skin condition all your life, and you hate all the people who look down at you. But does that really justify wanting to wipe out literally all of them? The Dragon King's motivation is basically Superfly from the new TMNT movie. He wants to take down every human who's ever looked down on him using the legendary power of Stick. The difference is that the Dragon King hates all landlubbers.
Suffer my wrath.
He plans to flood the entire world, destroying every creature that doesn't live in the sea. Yeah, that'll totally make them like you. If that's not bad enough, he also blackmails Lynn to use her as a pawn in his plan for world domination, only to conveniently not mention that his plan is to quite literally drown the Earth. And let's not forget him literally eating one of his henchmen at the start of the movie, for implying that the Monkey King was the hero of legend. Let's move over to the TMNT movie and award our silver medal of evil to Superfly. The man with a plan to eradicate humanity, Superfly is determined to release Baxter Stockman's ooze into the atmosphere, which sounds gross when you say it like that, to turn all the animals in the world into mutants. His plan for humans is to use them as slaves, entertainment, or just quote, something stupid. To his credit, Superfly has a sympathetic motive. Humans took his father away at a very small age, leaving him to raise his mutant siblings by himself. When he tried to enter human society with the gang, they immediately retaliated. Unfortunately, Superfly is no Splinter, as his solution, rather than simply living peacefully away from humans, was to murder all of them until he and his kind were the master race. And the only race. Now, as a human myself, I get why it would seem Superfly deserves the gold medal of evil. His plan is a legitimate threat to all humanity, and when he's transformed into Super Duper Fly, his pleasure in attacking both humans and his own fellow mutants is nothing short of disturbing. He also uses humans to help his plans, and kills them when he's done, which is already messed up even before you consider Superfly's own plan being to eradicate all humans anyway, so he was basically having them do hard labor just to ultimately die by his hand. But we will say he did have a somewhat sympathetic motive behind his monstrous deeds, so we decided to only give him the silver medal of evil. But who could possibly be the most evil villain of 2023? Yeah, you already know. William Afton gets the gold medal of evil. Child murder is one of the quickest ways to tell people that you're the scum of the earth, and Afton, just in case you didn't get the message, is efficient enough to have killed at least 5 of them. But if child murder wasn't enough for him, he also stuffed their bodies into his now abandoned pizza place's animatronics, and emotionally manipulated their souls to continue doing his dirty work.
I have something for you to play with!
This included trying to manipulate Mike into giving up Abby, essentially trying to murder her with a spring trap. God knows what else. But just in case there was any doubt that this man has not an ounce of compassion or decency, we have to give him the Wrath Sinner medal, by the way. He not only intentionally hires Mike because he knows he's the brother of one of his victims, but he even stabs his own daughter when she tries to get in the way. Hopefully his promise of a comeback was nothing more than a sorry attempt to save face. Never has a bone-crushing felt or looked so deserved.